I'm Bradley Chatterton,
I'm Ashley Chatterton.
and we're children of a drug addict alcoholic father.
Growing up, it was just me, my brother, and my mom. Dad was just in and out. He was doing his thing. Being a child of an addicted parent is normal to us. That is our life. I mean, that's how we grew up. It was hard without my dad being there because it was just mom, and with her being busy, it was kind of as if we were forced to grow up a little bit faster than other kids.
I feel like a lot of the innocence of childhood that's supposed to be there was robbed from us. From my perspective, I always felt like an outcast. I was exposed to drugs and alcohol at a young age. And I remember talking to my dad on the phone when I was 5 years old or something, when a 5-year-old shouldn't even know what prison is, asking him when he'd get out. Never had the father-son relationship, playing football catch. I'd always see other kids playing, and it was just wondering where my father was. I remember my dad, when I would see him, he'd always tell me to be careful, that he had an addictive personality, he was a recovering drug addict, and that it's passed down. And so growing up, I always did kind of have that fear. Around the age of 12, 13, I would start using marijuana and alcohol recreationally, and it just became progressive. When I was about 17, I got into harder things, and so officially I'm a drug addict, recovering drug addict. So that was always a big fear I had, was becoming like my dad. It's still a big fear I have today, becoming who my father was. So it's always in the back of my mind. It always affects me. I feel like it always will. But I use it for the better. I don't dwell on it. I don't let it define me.
I personally don't fear of becoming a drug addict. I feel like I take in my pain and hide it differently. I think that yes, I have the addictive gene, and that if I were to go down that road, I would absolutely become an addict. I just think that I have a completely different approach to it, about going about my own pains and doing my own things, and I don't think that I would go down that road. So it's an extremely different perspective versus my brothers, and it's just a matter of how each of us have kind of taken on what we've been through, and
Coach.
yeah, how we do things as our own person.
How do you cope that makes you feel confident enough to say you'd never go down the road of addiction?
It's all about covering and trying to hide that fear and that pain, and I think each of us do it in a different way. I just personally have taken it on as perfectionism, independence, cleaning. I clean a lot when I'm hurt, or when I'm scared, when I'm in fear. So it's different of how each of us go about our different ways.
Yeah, everyone has their own way of coping. We've been through the same things. I mean, we were in the same household growing up, same mom, same dad, same, but I mean, we were our own people and have our own outlooks. And so it's just kind of affected us differently.
For my process of healing, as I've gotten older, I've realized that I've had more and more damage done that I do need help with, and I've actually sought a therapist, and she has helped me a ton through everything that I've needed. I've gone through so many relationship problems and things, just background from my dad and everything that I've been through. It was just kind of trying to figure out, as I grew older, how to express those emotions and how to do things for myself but it was a matter of finding that therapist and finding someone who I could confide in and seek back help for what I needed. And that's what most has helped me out of anything.
I can say right now that I do have a lot of trust issues stemming from my childhood and growing up with an addict, alcoholic father. A lot of self-esteem issues, self-confidence. However, I wouldn't say the damage is irreversible. I guess I didn't really notice until probably the age of around 13 or 14, I'd say, that my family is not like other families. It's not unique, but where I was growing up in the town I grew up in, it was pretty different. And so just becoming more aware and accepting and growing. I do kind of have a deeply rooted fear of becoming the same parent as my father. Regardless of what I've been through and what it's done to me emotionally or whatever, I'm grateful for it because it's definitely showed me what I'm not going to be like. I'll make for sure that I'm not like that, and I'll break the cycle.
I want to give everything to my children and be there for them, let them know you can open up emotionally and you can talk about your feelings. Like, you need that. A child needs that. And for us, it was really hard because, like I said, Dad was out, Mom was working, trying to take care of us. So it was like we had each other, but it was more of, you need that parent, that caregiver to guide you and let you know, teach you that it's okay to open up and it's okay to talk about your feelings.
Yeah, instead of, like in our situation, it felt almost being a burden, talking about our emotions.
Exactly.
Mom was always working 2 jobs, busting her ass, trying to get food on the table and a roof over our head, so we didn't want a burden. We thought our emotions were a burden.
To a child with an addicted parent, I would let them know that nothing they do or say is going to change the way their parent acts. For me, it was really hard because subconsciously I was always trying to be the perfect child and do things to make sure my dad was happy, that way that he stayed around. Because I always had this fear that, oh, if I make him upset or if I do this, then he's not gonna come back, he's not gonna be here for so long. And I think for children it's really hard because they're thinking that the way I act, the things that I do is going to affect what they're doing. And in all reality, that's not how it is at all. Children take on a lot of that, and they do their best to keep their parents around because that's all they want. They want their parents' attention. They want that love and affection and nurture.
The biggest thing I would try and convey is just that it's not their fault. You're loved, you're worth it. Don't blame yourself. You deserve more, and that's not how love is supposed to feel. That's not real love. Coming from being a recovering addict, I can see and I know how it feels to be an addict. I can't say I know how it feels to be an addicted parent. But addiction's a tricky thing. You can't just tell someone what they're doing is wrong. They obviously know. What I would try and tell an addicted parent is just try and help them realize what they have going for them, that they brought a child into this world and they need to step up and handle the responsibility of it. And that's the other thing, is when you're in your live addiction, you don't see outside of yourself. You know it affects outside of yourself, and you know that's real, but it's just not applicable at the time. It's distant.
For me, if I had to talk to an addicted parent, it would be kind of to give them my outlook on what I've been through. And my father being an addict, it's been the hardest thing of my life. I haven't experienced addiction myself, but talking to an addicted parent, I would let them know, like, your child is going to go through an immense amount of pain because of what you're doing and what you're doing to them. And it's hard for me because from my perspective, I don't see the addiction. I don't understand it. I don't know what it's like to go through that. So I think that's why I get even more hurt from what my dad has done, because I don't know that feeling and what it's like to go through that. I just know and understand my pain.
Don't go at it as trying to shame the addict, or, you know, saying, oh, what you're doing is terrible, this, that, and another. Just really kind of have the conversation and say, you know, this is my experience. I grew up with an addicted parent, and this is the repercussions I've had to deal with. So I think the biggest thing we could do to help children of addicts is to work on the stigma surrounding addiction, and the perspective people have on it. I know publicly, like, typically you'd see an addict parent, maybe you see them and they get labeled as a tweaker or a junkie, and oh, you feel sorry for the child, this and that, but nobody's really attacking it with compassion or trying to change their perspective on it. It's just been that way. I think changing the stigma in homes, in households, really parents changing their views on addicts, how the way they talk about addiction to their children, that obviously gets adopted by children, taken into elementary schools, junior highs. So then when they do come in contact with a child of an addict, they might get teased or ridiculed or outcasted for the simple fact that their parent is an addict.
I think making it aware, having classes, putting it in schools, letting kids know that it's okay to talk about it.
Exactly.
It's just about putting it out there and letting people know. I don't think it's really something that anyone thinks about.
The saddest part about the whole children of addicted parents thing is the fact that our story is not unique. I mean, everybody has their own stories, and everybody's stories vary. But I mean, in this day and age, like, most of the families in America are affected by addiction in some way, shape, or form. It's not unique. It's not an outcast, but yet that's the way children of addicted parents feel.
As an adult, I've been most affected in my relationships. I tend to be the fixer. It's really hard for me because I'm drawn to partners who have the same inconsistencies and behaviors that I experienced with my father when I was a child. So it's been extremely unhealthy and damaging to myself and my relationships that I've had.
I have a hard time trusting anybody. I always have walls up. I don't feel comfortable letting people in because I feel like what I learned through childhood is that if somebody says they love you, they can turn around and up and leave. And so I have a hard time letting people in and accepting love. Insecurities as a man too, because growing up without a father, I never really had a man teach me how to be one. I mean, so at the end of the day, being a child of an addict, I would not change it at all. I'm grateful for it all. It's exposed me to a lot of realness at an early age. It's brought me and my sister closer than anybody else. I'm closer to my sister than anyone else. And I'm eternally grateful for that.
We've been best friends through it all, so here we are.
Dang right.
Ready to go, take on the world.